Chapter 3 Science on the Farm. In October of 1957, the Russians launched Sputnik, the first satellite to orbit the Earth. They did not announce it until it had orbited once to make sure it was succeeding. All Sky amateur watchers and amateur radio broadcasters and receivers were immediately called into action. It was fun. From the beeps, we could track the satellite. At the time, 50% of the people had never heard of a satellite. My dad loved this kind of action. He made sure we all saw the satellite. Dad was a big man, big chest, and even bigger belly that the doctor said he should watch. His stick was, well, he had to get that belly out there where he could see it. He did, and he could just barely bring his hands together out front. His big belt made a huge circle dent around his midline, and it looked as if he was actually cinched. Anyway, this big old belly would have been fun to sit on and play with his thick black hair, but that had never happened. So when he offered to pick me up so he could point out the satellite, I was thrilled. I paid special attention to his instructions to look straight down his arm as he pointed to the little silver moving blob. I sighted it right away, showing my excitement and assuring his future invites to join him. Mother was not much interested. So like clockwork, I ran out of the house every 98 minutes to spy it again and again with him. We would stand just off the porch looking into the pure black southern sky, totally unpolluted by city lights. Uncle George had a huge tower and was tracking the action with his ham radio equipment. All amateurs were asked to share their information with the Smithsonian, which everyone gladly did. Later, in response to Russia beating us into space, Michigan State University asked us to turn on our exterior lights at a certain time. It was like 9:45, but it was very specific. They wanted to see the outline of the state, and the thumb was just too damn dark to pick up anything. So we ran around and turned on everything for about 5 minutes, and then it was over. I never heard a word about this. We were probably still just too damn dark. When I was 4, and I was headed to bed one night, Mother had her friend Marge over, and they were sitting in the living room talking. I came over to Mother, kissed her, and said good night. Halfway up the stairs, I hear Marge say, "She still does that?" Mother says yes. I sit down. Do what, I think. I just sit there for the longest time. We just had supper and no one else is going to bed. It's light outside and everybody else is enjoying the warm summer air. Why am I going to bed? Why am I the only one? It was absolutely the first time I had questioned this arrangement. I never went to bed so early and alone again. When I asked Mother about this incident years later, she laughed. She said she knew Marge had broken the spell right there. Boy, Mother had me well trained, didn't she? But can you imagine the home life I missed and the separation from the rest of the family she was manipulating? Yeah, I always was her extra child. We had to go down to Willow Run to pick Mother up from one of her long trips to California or Florida. She would leave for weeks on end. That would leave us with Dad so he could be in charge, and him being in charge was a micromanager's home run. He would retrain us for all sorts of home cleaning techniques. He would be consumed with how we did the dishes and how we swept. This was on top of how we mowed or how we took care of the horses. He could be a real pain in the ass and slow down every job to a crawl. Mother didn't much care about technique as long as the work was done before she got home. We had one particularly memorable trip down to Willow Run to pick up Mother. Dad hated trips back to the city. He would get really nervous, and the roads fought the car, and the car fought the road. On top of that, it was foggy, and I mean pea soup foggy. But Dad was consumed with getting there and getting there on time. He never thinks if we can't get there, the plane can't get there. Of course, after this death-defying trip, we get down to Willow Run, and it's shut down. There is not a soul there, and I mean nobody. Jane and I discovered escalators for the first time ever, and what a cool invention. Up and down and up the down the up for hours and hours. Once in a while, someone would show up and ride down or up, and we would stand back, rather politely, if not rather dramatically, and then go back and play again. Don't remember anything else, except the men that showed up to ride always wore the nicest suits and the shoes were shiny and clean. It really seemed to me that they never left the airport. I guess I thought they lived and worked in this ultra-modern environment, never leaving. More like the Jetsons than the farmers I knew. Dad was a nervous wreck, and we ran into more fog on the way home.
Again, we should not have been on the road. We get down into heavy traffic and Dad needs to make a left-hand turn and he says to Mother, "Can I turn?" And she says, "Well, I can't see anything," which she meant literally, not that nothing was coming. I was in the back seat sitting on my knees looking out the back window. Dad makes that turn like a race car driver and I watch the car pass our rear bumper with nary an inch to spare. I tell them this fact. Mother says, "What?" I say, "Really, just by an inch." And we all let out a sigh. Dad pulled over in a few and lit a cigarette, and I bet he wished he had a little nip that day. These were the days before the installation of seatbelts. Dad sold insurance, and at his yearly meetings, they began stressing the importance of safety. He had sold Hartford and Frankenmuth, as well as auto owners in Allstate, a company they both learned to hate. In Lansing one year, the company showed the agents a new type of film called High Speed. What they did was reenact a traffic accident and film it to figure out what was really happening. When film was first invented, it was used to prove all 4 horses came off the ground simultaneously. In all the years of riding horses, no one could actually prove the point until the filming technique was invented. We had the same with traffic accidents. And the accident highlighted was a boy riding in the back window, a common thing we all did as children. He's laying up there when the car is hit from the rear. Afterwards, the child is dead, laying peacefully in the back seat. Why? Looks like he just rolled off the shelf. The film was really upsetting because no one really realized what was happening. The boy actually hit the front windshield and flew back and hit the back window and then hit the back of the front seats and then was thrown onto the back seat where he was found peacefully laying. Of course, he had been beat to shit and he had died. It's amazing we didn't realize all the action of a car accident until we could see it clearly and slowly in the film. This was the same with the horse's gallop. It had been the discussion for eons, and many a bet was placed on the results, but in the end we all realized the true action, and it changed our perceptions of the world permanently. Now it's kind of hard to imagine not knowing.